Have you ever wondered why so many artists seem profoundly sad? Although not all of them are, this is certainly the case for the Dutchman Vincent van Gogh, an INFP personality artist just like David Bowie, Kurt Cobain, or Franz Kafka. Not coincidentally, other great artists like Van Gogh, and who, like him, seem to battle internal and external demons throughout their lives. However, while they were remembered in music and writing, Van Gogh was so influential in art of painting that I'm sure you've already seen many of his paintings without even knowing that were his. For example, that skull with a lit cigarette, those sunflowers, his bedroom in the city of Arles in France, and of course, not one, but various of his self-portraits. Looking at his paintings, it's possible to notice the vivid colors, which in some cases still look freshly painted. But there is a paradox. After all, even though his art was like this, Van Gogh's life, like that of many artists, couldn't be less vibrant, as he suffered from enormous depression throughout his life. This opens up to the question, does depression create an artist, or by being an artist, does depression appear? To answer this, it would be good to analyze Van Gogh's life, a life marked by isolation, failure, and emotional instability until his death. Being a pastor's son, he tried to follow acceptable paths. He worked as an art dealer, tried religious life, and wanted to be a missionary among poor miners in Belgium. But he failed at everything. He was romantically rejected, misunderstood by his family, and seen as eccentric by almost everyone around him. When he finally started dedicating himself to painting at 27 years old, he began doing it obsessively. He lived in poverty, was financially dependent on his brother Theo, and constantly moved from city to city. Eventually, after an argument with another painter friend, Gogh, Van Gogh entered a kind of psychological collapse, cuts off his own ear, delivers it to a prostitute in a brothel, and admits himself into a psychiatric asylum in Saint-Rémy in France, where he continued painting obsessively, creating one of his greatest works there, The Starry Night. This work is a direct inspiration for the famous waves of the Japanese artist Katsushika Hokusai, from whom Van Gogh drew inspiration from, as he did with other Japanese artists as well. Pausing to look, it is possible to see how Hokusai's waves turn into winds, clouds, and luminous distortions, perhaps as an example of his psychological state at the time. And from what we know today, it really was, but in another way. According to some researchers, it was discovered that Van Gogh might have been treated with digitalis, a common medication at the time for epilepsy and other mental problems. However, this medicine causes something called xanthopsia, a type of self-induced color blindness that changes the perception of the world to yellowish green tones and luminous halos around objects. A type of natural psychedelic, and clearly one of the hypotheses for what is a trademark of Van Gogh's works, the intense yellow and crowns of light, both in A Starry Night and in several other paintings. One of the greatest pieces of evidence for this is in the painting portrait of his doctor, Dr. Gachet, who appears right next to him holding precisely a digitalis purpurea, the plant from which the medicine is extracted from. In other words, the very medication Van Gogh used to try to contain his demons most likely altered his visual perception and directly influenced his heart. In letters he wrote to his brother, Van Gogh spoke of art as something therapeutic, a medicine against himself. His ruminative thoughts, negative emotions, wrong motivations, everything turned outwards in the form of colors, shapes, and movements. He didn't paint because he was well. He painted precisely because he wasn't. And contradictorily, this is what generated a beauty that transcends decades. With this, we return to the initial question. Are artists depressed because they are artists, or do they become depressed because they are artists? Perhaps both, perhaps neither. But what we learn from Van Gogh is something we see in his own paintings, how the two things seem to merge, break, and undulate over each other. He painted to escape depression, but ironically, trying to escape depression also made his art even more beautiful. However, even though his works survived time, they were not able to do the same for his own life. Because on the night of July 27, 1890, he shot himself in the chest and died 2 days later, at the age of 37, with his brother Theo, who always helped him by his side. What you can take from Van Gogh's story is certainly as unique as what each person can take from his works. And even though he had such a sad ending, I hope this video inspires you to find in the solution to your problems the same strength to create something as beautiful as Van Gogh created in his search for a solution to his own. My name is Julius Caesar, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.